Madam Chair, members of the committee, first, thank you very much. It's been a long road for us to get here to this first public hearing on the city of Tucker. There's been lots of talk about cities in DeKalb and all kinds of proposals. We think today is really day one for us, and we thank you for hearing us. And Representative Mitchell, somewhere around May 21st, we're going to be looking for a chairman of the Tucker Convention and Visitors Bureau. And I certainly hope you'll make yourself available for that. My name's Frank Auman. Tucker, Georgia is my home. I'm involved there in a lot of ways, one of which is that I know some of you, and you know me as immediate past chairman of the DeKalb Republican Party for 2 terms in 4 years. But that's not why I got involved in the cityhood issue, because we don't consider cityhood a partisan issue. The reason I got involved in it was I saw a year ago this situation developing where we were going to have what you might call a train wreck in the legislature with lots of difficult decisions to be made, and really beyond that, rending our community, which is so vital, so involved, so engaged, distracting it and rending it into these just very divisive kinds of issues. But over the course of the process, I have become convinced there's no finer, stronger community anywhere in DeKalb County than Tucker. Its 120-year history, I don't think we've faced a greater challenge, but I don't think we've ever responded in a nobler fashion than we have at this moment in our history. The leaders of Tucker Together and Tucker 2014, the leadership of this movement, have been variously maligned as Republicans posing as Democrats bent on wrecking Republican plans, as naysayers who really don't want a city at all, negligent stewards who shoulda, coulda, woulda incorporated a long time ago, obstinate negotiators in bad faith, and we're grateful for this time to set the record straight. Tucker Together began as a nonpartisan, non-advocacy community education group about a year ago when the city of Lakeside published a proposed map that included about 40% of the land area previously recognized as Tucker. The group held 4 public meetings that were attended by hundreds of Tucker residents to study a range of alternatives, including cityhood, including doing nothing, including simple outright opposition to a city of Lakeside, including aligning ourselves in some way with one or more other existing cities. The conclusion of all of that was that cityhood, formalizing cityhood for Tucker, was the best avenue for us to protect our identity, to retain the character of Tucker, and to allow us to focus on economic development, the things that local communities do best because they're motivated to, because they're in a time and place to focus on those things, unlike any other level of government or any form of representation. We raised well over $30,000 for our feasibility study, mostly from individual citizens like those you see behind me here, but also enough to conduct a third-party poll of the entire Tucker community as to their thoughts about cityhood or other alternatives. Once we concluded cityhood was our best course, Tucker responded resoundingly and in great numbers. So I'm going to tell you briefly about our proposal, then you're going to hear from some of our members of our community. Can you help me with that map for a second? This is a version, I think, of what you've got in front of you. Yours may be slightly more current than this, but just conceptually, I think it'll make the point for you. So this is Interstate 85 going northeast out of Atlanta toward Greensboro and Charlotte. This is 285 coming around from the top end of the perimeter. So this is Spaghetti Junction, just to sort of get you oriented. This is Spaghetti Junction right here. We drew a map of Tucker basically outside 285. The center of the city, the main street you've heard mentioned, is right there. The other 2 cities that overlap to a greater or lesser degree with Tucker, roughly over there. This is a big area of contention. This is really what the fight is about. This is North Lake Mall, which you've also heard is kind of at the center of the storm. It's the area that's in all 3 maps. Frankly, that's less of a problem. This is a big problem. This is what kills Tucker if the existing map of Lakeside is passed. So, to the greatest extent possible, our borders respect natural, existing, easily recognizable boundaries and a cohesive community of interest, as Representative Mitchell described. It also takes into account historically and federally recognized places and the views of people who live there now, as well as some of them, many of them, whose families have lived there for literally generations. Tucker's not only balanced in terms of the geography, great neighborhoods and communities, but a nearly ideal mix of residential, commercial, industrial, retail around the various parts of the city of Tucker. It's also well balanced by any demographic measure: age, race, political affiliation. In fact, I might say if you were to sit down with a blank piece of paper and draw up a city, it might look very much like Tucker. The facts you should know about our proposal are these. First of all, Tucker is feasible as drawn and according to the requirements this body laid out for such a feasibility study. Tucker's already a well-established community with a main street. You've heard some of those things. I'm going to save you the effort of hearing it again. But the existing infrastructure of volunteer organizations like the Business Association, the Main Street Alliance, all those things, that's what has driven Tucker for a very long time. Beyond those things and the grants for livable centers and lifelong communities, grants from the Atlanta Regional Commission, we created our own zoning overlays. There's not one but two community improvement districts in the borders of the Tucker that you just saw, where businesses have come together voluntarily to tax themselves and establish regulations for themselves to drive economic development, to seek the long-term improvement of the city of Tucker. All that, by the way, has been done without the benefit of cityhood, of formalized cityhood behind us. That's volunteers taken out of their own time to go and do those things. So we are proposing to form a city based on those strengths: planning and zoning, code enforcement, parks and recreation. The very things that local people have been doing in Tucker for themselves. They're ready to take the next step. They're ready to have that imprimatur of cityhood behind them, also with the protection that when they are working in their local community, they're working for the benefit of their local community. Our proposal, the Tucker proposal, is the only proposal that allows everyone in Tucker to vote. If we vote on ultimately a lakeside map like the one that passed the Senate yesterday, the people inside the lakeside map get to vote. The people outside Tucker, who have been the stalwarts of that community for all this time, get no vote, no voice, no nothing. And their future will be determined by a group of people that are quite distant. Part of our point is, and what we're asking you to do, is to pass a referendum for a city of Tucker today. You can do this right now. And the important thing is when you do that, you won't just accomplish a referendum for a city of Tucker that makes sense. You can do it without infringing on the rights of others in other cityhood movements to retain that same self-determination. If you see the map in front of you, Tucker is Tucker. We can do Tucker. The people of Tucker can handle Tucker. And if we do Tucker, there's still plenty of room for another great city right here, somewhere in here. Call it what you will. Make the borders where you want. That's not our business. We're saying we can do this. You can give us the authority to do that. You've done no harm to anybody else. And we can move ahead with the city of Tucker regardless of whatever else happens with other cityhood movements. The point is, Tucker is already what these recently conceived of cities hope to be one day. And so the obvious question becomes, why should others be allowed to tear apart the fabric of an existing, well-established, highly successful Tucker to try something new? Why shouldn't Tucker receive the respect due to a long-term, well-established, very successful community? We're asking you to vote today, tomorrow, first thing Monday morning, to preserve one of DeKalb's greatest assets by passing this bill to recognize Tucker as a city. The senator who represents virtually all of Tucker is in favor of our proposal. I think the representative here could be said to be in favor of our proposal. He represents most of the area of Tucker that you have there. The lone Republican county commissioner in DeKalb County is a resident of Tucker, supportive of Tucker, and has expressed in writing in the last 48 hours her opposition to the lakeside map that passed the Senate yesterday. Let there be no doubt about where the representatives of Tucker stand on the issue of Tucker. Now you have a bill coming over from the Senate. We're asking you to pass a bill for Tucker to create a competing bill and force the conversation to continue. We are prepared to negotiate. We're prepared. We have made offers. We have made concessions. We made the only real concessions in this discussion. We've been rejected. We ask you to pass this bill to create a further opportunity to continue that. Lacking the time or ability or capacity to actually pass a bill for Tucker, we would ask you when that bill comes over from the Senate to substitute the Tucker bill for it and send it right back to the Senate, where they'll reject it again, but again, it will force the conversation to continue. And we are ready and willing. You know, we've been down here, you've seen my colleagues nearly 24/7. We're in the game. We're willing to talk. And we beg this committee to take action that will cause that continued negotiation to continue. So I'm going to quit. You've asked to hear from some members of our community, and we have some who are